Hi, my name is Marlene Garcia Aguilar, and I'm going to tell you about the Harlem Renaissance. I know that we are now in the 21st century and year 2021, but let's move 141 years into the past to enter in context. We are now in the 1880s. In the 1880s, the district of Harlem, located in northern Manhattan, New York, was an upper class white neighborhood. Its massive development led to the establishment of many buildings. Years later, the Great Migration took place. This event occurred between 1917 and 1970. African American people from cities of the south of United States such as Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, and other states decided to look for a better life going to the north of United States. Cities like Portland in Oregon, Milwaukee in Wisconsin, Detroit, and the most recognized for this event was New York, the neighborhood of Harlem. As previously mentioned, this neighborhood was for the upper class people. Of course, it wasn't intended for colored people. However, there were so many empty apartments, that African Americans began to live there. For sure, the Caucasians protested against what was happening, but it was all in vain because the African Americans continued to arrive and the Caucasians chose to leave the area. And here we can say the great author from those years, Zora Neale Hurston, and she said, "Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it doesn't make me angry, it merely astonishes me. How can any deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me." The Harlem area of Manhattan covers just 7.7 square kilometers, and it attracted nearly 175,000 African Americans, giving the neighborhood the largest concentration of Black people in the world, explains the National Museum of African American and Culture. Harlem became a destination for African Americans of all backgrounds, from unskilled laborers to educated middle class people. They shared common experiences of slavery, emancipation, and racial oppression, as well as a determination to forge a new identity as free people. The Harlem Renaissance was the development of the Harlem neighborhood in New York City as a Black cultural mecca in the early 20th century, and the subsequent social and artistic explosion that resulted, lasting roughly from the 1920s through the mid-1930s. The period is considered a golden age in African American culture. We know that this period was characterized by the artistic explosion, such as theater, art, literature, and above all, music, which we already know a lot. So we will focus on literature, and during this period, people involved with the movement relied heavily on the print media and poetry as a way to make their ideas known. Some famous authors are Zora Neale Hurston. She was born in Notasulga, Alabama on January 15 in 1891. During her time as a student in New York City, Hurston befriended other writers such as Langston Hughes and County Lee. Together, the group of writers joined the Black cultural renaissance which was taking place in Harlem. Through her life, Hurston dedicated herself to promoting and studying the Black culture. She also wrote many books such as Mills and Men, Tell My Horse, and Their Eyes Were Watching God. County Lee, his poems explore modern racial injustice at the time using the classical structure associated with white poets. And one of the most recognized figures during this movement was Langston Hughes, a poet who saw writing as a way to express our dark-skinned individuality without fear or shame. Hughes was a pioneer of jazz poetry, translating the distinctive sound of jazz into pieces of lyric reading. Hughes's work includes Dream, The Very Blues, and Words Like Freedom. One media outlet that proved particularly popular was The Crisis, a tri-monthly magazine published by the NAACP, National Association for Advancement of Colored People. This intended to show the danger of racial prejudice, especially as it is manifested today toward people of color. The Crisis was a platform for the work of African American writers. Du Bois, a leading activist, sociologist, historian, and writer, was the editor of the magazine until his resignation in 1934. This magazine still is in circulation today. The movement of Renaissance was popularized by African American philosopher Alain Locke in The New Negro. In the year 1925, an anthology of fiction, poetry, drama, and essays. The New Negro is an interpretation dives into how the African Americans saw social media, political, and artistic change. Instead of accepting their position in society, Locke saw the New Negro as championing and demanding civil rights. Also, his anthology sought to change the old stereotypes and replace them with new vision of black identity. They resisted simplification. The essays and poems in the anthology mirror real-life events and experiences. To end this presentation, I will recite a poem of Hiiiii, and it's called I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. As we know, the Harlem neighborhood was meant to be the housing for upper-class white people, but there was so much housing left that African Americans took this place over, and now, thanks to the miscalculated construction, this place is part of the black culture. The Renaissance also helped to change the world's perception of African Americans. And I know that what preceded these golden years was not the best part of history, but it served as encouragement for African American people to improve their history and development. As a personal opinion, I love jazz, and the poetry that was written during these years doesn't need fancy words to be beautiful. Thanks for watching!